Have you ever wondered what chain of events led to the outbreak of the First World War? Let's go back to June 1914, when the first domino fell. Archduke Franz Ferdinand of Austria was assassinated by a Serbian nationalist. This brutal act of violence was the immediate cause that set the world on a path to war. Austria-Hungary, mourning their heir and seeking retribution, declared war on Serbia. But this was not simply a conflict between two nations. Europe at that time was a tangled web of alliances and obligations. Countries were bound by a complex network of treaties and agreements, many of which were designed to maintain the balance of power. But in the face of aggression, these alliances morphed into chains that pulled nation after nation into the fray. The dominoes began to fall, one after another, each triggering the next. Thus, the spark that set off World War I was lit. But what were the underlying issues that made Europe a powder keg ready to explode? Well, let's delve into the long-term causes of the war, which included a rampant arms race, imperialism, and a complex system of alliances. The turn of the 20th century saw an unprecedented surge in military technology. Nations across Europe were engaged in an intense competition, amassing arsenals of advanced weaponry and bolstering their military forces. This arms race created an atmosphere of mistrust and fear, with each nation on edge, ready to leap into action at the slightest provocation. Then there was the issue of imperialism. European powers were in a scramble to acquire colonies and expand their empires, particularly in Africa and Asia. This race for territories and resources led to friction and rivalry, as nations vied for the same piece of the global pie. The desire for dominance and control over resources and territories was a major contributing factor to the tension that was brewing. The system of alliances was another pivotal point. The major European powers had formed two main alliances: the Triple Entente, consisting of France, Russia, and Britain, and the Triple Alliance, made up of Germany, Austria-Hungary, and Italy. These alliances weren't just about mutual protection. They were a way of maintaining a balance of power in Europe, a balance that was becoming increasingly precarious. And let's not forget about nationalism, a potent force that played a significant role in the run-up to the war. Many nations desired to assert their power and influence, with various ethnic groups clamoring for independence or dominance. Nationalism stoked the fires of rivalry and resentment, as nations sought to prove their superiority and protect their interests. Amid this backdrop of escalating tensions, rivalries, and ambitions, Europe was a powder keg just waiting for a spark. The assassination of Archduke Franz Ferdinand of Austria-Hungary in June of 1914 was that spark, igniting the fuse that led to the outbreak of World War I. All these factors created a volatile environment, ripe for a large-scale war. So we've seen how a web of alliances, rivalities, and tensions led to the outbreak of World War I. The assassination of Archduke Franz Ferdinand of Austria by a Serbian nationalist sparked an unprecedented chain of events. Austria-Hungary, hungry for retribution, declared war on Serbia. The intricate web of alliances drawn across Europe then pulled one nation after another into the conflict. But what were the underlying causes that made Europe a powder keg ready to explode? The arms race, with nations amassing military might, was certainly a factor. The imperial ambitions of the powerful countries, the surge of nationalism, and the tangled system of alliances all played a part. These long-term causes, coupled with the immediate trigger of the assassination, created a volatile cocktail that exploded into World War I. In a nutshell, World War I was the result of a complex interplay of various factors, both immediate and long-term. The consequences of World War I were far-reaching and profound. The war, often referred to as the Great War, left an immeasurable scar on humanity. Across the globe, millions of lives were lost, families were torn apart, and societies were irrevocably changed. The physical destruction was immense, but the emotional and psychological toll was even greater. Politically, the world map was redrawn. Empires crumbled, new nations were born, and ideologies shifted. The Treaty of Versailles, intended to ensure peace, instead sowed the seeds of resentment and discontent that would eventually lead to the outbreak of the Second World War. In addition, the war spurred significant advancements in technology and warfare, setting the stage for future conflicts. It fundamentally changed the way wars were fought and perceived. The echoes of World War I continue to reverberate even today, reminding us of the devastating consequences of global conflict. We must never forget the lessons learned from this tragic chapter of our history.